Zoom. Hi, good morning, everyone. We are going to, hi, Alicia, how are you? Good to see you. We're going to wait for a couple more people to come in, so probably another 2 or 3 minutes, so feel free to get comfortable, and then we will kick off very soon. Hi, for everyone that just joined, we're going to give a couple more minutes for people to trickle in, and then we'll start at about 11:03 or so.
It's good. Morning, everyone. Morning.
Good morning. Okay, so I think we're going to get started. I'll let Frank take it away.
Good morning, and thank you for being generous with your time and joining us today for this info session and webinar on our project for the USDA Climate Smart Commodities Grant Opportunity. We are Re-Nuble, and today we're going to be covering a few different things in our meeting. So I'm going to jump over to the agenda for today. We'll start with a little introduction of ourselves and our partners, an introduction on what insect frass is, a bit of an overview, a general project overview, what the benefits are of participation for participating farms, what the eligibility criteria is for participating farms, and then what the timeline is for the project and how to join us. And after that, we'll save some time at the end for Q&A. If you wouldn't mind any questions that come up for you during the webinar, put those in the chat for us, and then we'll take care of those, some during the chat and then mostly at the end, so they can share the information with everybody. So Re-Nuble is a climate tech company, and we're focused on helping agricultural communities utilize food waste for more sustainable growing practices. And in this project, we partner with the USDA for climate smart commodities to help support American farmers in bringing climate smart commodities to crops and ultimately lowering that barrier to entry for using and doing sustainable practices. So food waste accounts for hundreds of tons of metric greenhouse gas emissions every year. And by utilizing insects to bioconvert that food waste, we could save tons of greenhouse gas emissions just in the process. And then the byproduct of that is a nutrient-rich soil amendment called insect frass that we plan to distribute to all of the farmers participating in this project. On that subject, we have our partners here from Tupel Farms, and we're going to share a video from them about what insect frass is, or how insect frass is produced. Let me see if this is going to work the way it's supposed to.
While Frank does that, I'll just introduce really quickly our project partners that are on this call. So we have Tupel Farms. They are the technology partner that produces the containerized insect farm that will actually produce the insect frass. We have IPM Institute. They are in charge of the GHG emissions analysis, which we'll go into after this as well. We also have Alina, who is in charge of our marketing and distribution work. And there are other partners as well involved. They're not on the call at the moment, but we have a crop advisor. He has experience with Rodale Institute, so a lot of organic experience, organic farming experience. And lastly, we have an economics team. They're called Highland Economics. I don't believe they're on this call today as well, but they're also part of our project team. So I just wanted to give a quick heads up that many of the project partners are also on this call. So if you have questions at the end of it, we're all ready to answer these questions. Sorry, Frank, go ahead. I think you got the video ready.
Okay, cool. Can everybody see the video?
Cool. Yeah, we can see it.
Any questions so far? If you do, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we're going to get back to the presentation. So some of the many benefits of frass, and there are way too many for me to get into in just this one webinar. We'd be here for an hour and a half easily. Insect frass is really rich in nutrients, and it's an organic soil amendment. Technically fertilizer, but we don't use that term because there's certain rules around what we call a fertilizer. But farmers who used insect frass have reported improvements in both quality and quantity of their produce. I'm gonna actually go back to my notes. Sorry. Insect frass is also packed with beneficial bacteria that helps plants access more nutrients from the soil. So for the amount of nutrients that are there, plants can't always access them or uptake them. Insect frass helps improve the uptake of the available nutrients. Insect frass also contains chitin, which is from the insect body as they molt, and this triggers the plant's defense mechanisms against pest and disease. And healthier crops mean healthier plants and less crop loss. So, along with the biodiversity, as you increase the biodiversity and the organic matter in your soil, farmers also report using less water, the water retention increases, as well as maintaining the structure of your soil for overall soil health. And in addition to being rich in nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, insect frass is also rich in biostimulants, enzymes, and beneficial microbes, which I mentioned. So the goal of this grant is to support farmers in adopting climate smart practices. The benefits of participating in this project include an incentive payment paid to the farm producers for participating in the program, a nutrient management plan developed by our crop specialist, and then a marketing and distribution plan developed specifically for the sale of particular climate smart commodities. With our lab partner, Ward Labs, we're going to do some of the most modern soil analysis. So in addition to measuring their traditional NPK measurements, we can also measure microbial mass and other organic compounds that impact overall soil health and not just the soil fertility.
All right, so I'm going to take over from here. This is where my wheelhouse comes in. Thanks so much, Frank. Appreciate you running through all of the other stuff. So one of the elements that this project looks into that the USDA is very focused on is making sure that the environmental impact of this project is, number one, being measured and verified. So we are working with, as I mentioned, a partner, one of the sub-awardees. They're called IPM Institute, and we will be working with the farms to help measure and verify GHG benefits and carbon sequestration, as well as your soil organic matter. And this will be done through soil sampling and data collection. So the data collection will be done via two main methods. First method is, obviously we understand a lot of farms, a lot of your information is in your head and from your memory. So we will have verbal conversations with you to understand your farming practices. The other part of it is if you have paperwork or any documentation of any sort, our team at IPM Institute will sit down with you and go through that and just make sure we understand and get as much data as possible. This will be done before as well as after the project implementation. The purpose of this is, as I mentioned, we want to assess the changes resulting from this project, and that will be particularly focused on the nutrient management changes as a result of using the insect frass on your farm. And through this, what we also hope is we'd help you identify improvement opportunities if you see anything that or any data that you think could help your farm perform better in the future. If you move to the next slide. Okay, so now yes, Alicia, we will be more than happy to share the deck. Frank, would you mind switching to the next slide?
Okay. It's switching on my side. It must not be switching on. So 1 second.
Oh, maybe it's okay. Well, actually, we know it's gone backwards.
We're here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so now the question is, who are we looking for? We're looking to enroll small and underserved farms in some key states. So New York, Michigan, Kentucky, and Mississippi. These are states that we have spoken to USDA about, and they've agreed that these are states that they are interested in us focusing on. We're also looking for farms that have over 5 acres of crops. We'll go into the details of those crops right after this. And importantly, we're also looking for farms that are interested in adopting climate smart practices. So climate smart, it's a new term. We know that there are many sustainable terms that are being thrown around, but essentially it just means farms that are looking to incorporate more environmentally friendly practices, and we'd love to work with you. For us, what's really important is we really want to partner with farms who don't get the type of support that larger commercial scale farms typically get. And we see this as a two-way street. As much as we're coming to the table with something, we see it as a partnership with the farms as well to learn from one another. So it's not just, one party coming in and implementing the technology and then being like, all right, please run with this. It's a mutual conversation between two sides. And that's something that all of our project partners and sub-awardees feel strongly about. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, farm criteria. So as I mentioned, there are a couple of things that we specifically need to adhere to, and this is based on our agreement with the USDA. So first of all, as I mentioned, location is very important. So if you are a farm that's in those states, fantastic. If you know other farms that are in those states and perhaps you're not, or maybe you're an organization that knows farms in those states, please feel free to share this information with them. The second thing is the farms must be growing one of the following crops. So it has to be apples, leafy greens, tomatoes, corn, eggs, hemp, alfalfa, or squash. Unfortunately, we cannot work with farms that do not grow these crops. So if you are one of these, if you have any of these, wonderful. The third thing is it has to be a US farm and not a foreign entity, and you have to be FSA registered. This just makes it much easier from a paperwork perspective, we have found, and we're able to just flow straight into the project with the farms, particularly with regards to the FSA registration. We have worked with a couple of FSAs with some of the other farms that we have already enrolled. So if that's something that you maybe you haven't conversed with your FSA team in a while or your FSA rep in a while, we're happy to work with you on that as well. And we have done that in the past with other farms. Lastly, the farm has to be small and underserved. Again, this is really important to us. We really want to make sure that this gets out to as many people as possible that would not typically get access to this. And what a small underserved farm criteria is, you have to have a gross profit of less than $250,000 annually, or you must fall under the category of the following. So beginning farmer, you are socially disadvantaged, veteran, woman-owned, or farms with limited resources. And you, of course, will know best if you fall if you fall under any of those categories. We can go to the next slide now, which is the timeline. So this is a very high level timeline, but it just gives you a rough idea of what the next couple of years will look like. The project started officially last year and we're meant to end in 2026. So throughout 2023, the bulk of what we were doing was finalizing the contract with the USDA. We then enrolled the first batch of farms and we were working closely with a number of them. And then we kicked off the project with the sub-awardees. So as I mentioned, Chapul Farms and IPM, as well as the project partners and the select farms. Now, moving to September 2024, which is where we're at now, we are in the process of looking for new farms. And once we have the applications, we will review the farm applicants to make sure that it fits the criteria that we're looking for. Once that's done, we will then enroll all these new farms and we will kick off. So what kickoff includes is signing an MSA or the contract, and we will have to work with you to obtain your farm FSA information. It's mostly paperwork. It's just making sure that we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's. Then, fall 2024, we'll work with farms to determine which climate smart commodity you'd like to focus on. So what that means is, as I mentioned, there are specific crops that you need to be growing. What we have found is some farms have maybe more than one crop that they have. So they may have squash and alfalfa, for example. So we'll speak to you, we'll work with you, we'll try to understand what makes the most sense for your farm, and just making sure that everyone's comfortable with the commodity that you have landed on. The next stage of that is we will then begin remote data collection. So this is all done from afar. We'll meet with you via call. It can either be via Zoom, it can be via phone call, whatever again is most comfortable for you. And we will begin the project planning at a high level. Moving into winter 2024, this is when we go into more granular planning for the FRAS application for your farm. And this is again where the crop advisor is going to come in. So the crop advisor is going to look at your farming practices and will also design a nutrient management plan. And then the last part of winter 2024 is we will set a date for farm visits. The purpose of the farm visits are twofold. Firstly, it's soil testing. This allows us to, number one, understand your nutrient management. And number two, as I mentioned, we will need it for various parts of this project. Secondly, we will be doing data collection. So again, it's what we had mentioned earlier, where some of the data collection has to be done in person. But, and this is not mentioned here, this third part, we want to build a relationship with the farms. We don't just see this as transactional. We want to actually get to know you and vice versa, so that we can make sure that this project is as beneficial to the farms as possible. Now, moving into 2025, spring, this is where it gets exciting. We actually begin the FRAS application at your farm. And this is when our marketing and distribution team will come in and they will be developing a marketing plan for you. And what we mean by that is our team will look at the economics and the marketing nuances specific to your farm and to your location to develop a plan that makes the most sense for you to sell those commodities that you've grown with the insect frass to your specific market. So we'll be carrying out training for you, or with you, I'm sorry, for that section. Now, going into summer to winter 2025, this is when you'll be growing, harvesting, etc. And our role is to provide additional farm assistance and training needs as and where applicable. Spring 2026, this is when we'll carry out a farm site visit and we will start gathering data. This is the 1-year mark since you have applied the FRAS in spring 2025, and we will be evaluating the final results of the project. And this covers operational results, financial results, and as well as the environmental impact. Now, what I'd like to point you to is the asterisks. So September 2024, you'll see one asterisk, and summer 2025, you'll see a second one. The reason we put that there is because the way this project works is we're staggering the enrollment of farms. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. We're staggering the start of working with farms. So we may enroll you, but we may not necessarily start working with your farm. The reason we're doing that is to make sure that we're giving each farm the respective time and attention that it would need based on our team size as well. So the first batch of farms that we would start working with in September 2024, there'll be 5 farms. So we'll carry that through all the way to winter 2026. The second batch of farms is going to be starting in summer 2025, and that'll be 10 farms. And they will then carry through to winter 2026. So you'll notice that it's slightly different timelines for the 2 batches. The first batch will be doing this for a little bit longer. The second batch will be doing it for a little bit shorter. We can dive into that if you have any questions, but we've really tried to break down this timeline as best as possible. So I hope that made as much sense as possible. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, so in terms of next steps, we have firstly an intake survey. So as I mentioned, we need to make sure that your farm fits the parameters that have been set. This is a form that you will fill in. It's very straightforward. It shouldn't take too long, but it just allows us to really assess whether this is the right fit. The next step is we will get in touch with you pretty much immediately within maximum 24 hours. And we will speak to you to discuss farm specifics and how this grant could be applied to your farm. The next step is the enrollment. So we ran through that. This is just making sure that your FSA registration is there. We're updating the USDA that your farm is involved, etc. Then we begin implementation. And that is the entire timeline that we just ran through. Next slide. So how do you join us? We're going to leave this slide up so that if you'd like to scan it, please go ahead. So for farms, if you think that you're a right fit or this is of interest to you, there's an intake survey that I had mentioned. You can either type in the link and Frank, if you wouldn't mind just plugging the link into the chat for anyone that wants to click on the link, that'd be great. Just fill up the intake survey and we'll get back to you. If you are not a farm or if this doesn't fit your organization or your farm, but you know of others that may be interested, we would really appreciate it if you shared this project with them. There is a page on our website that breaks down the project, and it also has a form for them to contact us if they have any questions. So again, there's a QR code, you can scan that or you can type in the link. That is the summary of our presentation. I know we've thrown a lot at you, and it is, we hope, as much color as possible, but we are totally open for questions now. Feel free to either type it in, and if not, feel free to unmute yourself and we'd be happy to take any questions.
Rihanna, because I'm on screen share, would you mind pasting those back into the chat?
Oh yeah, sure. I can
Yep.
do that, absolutely.
Thanks.
So I think there are a couple of questions in the chat, but let me share. Frank, do you mind
Yeah.
going through the questions, and I'll stick the link in there as well.
So, question from Maya. Will university and college-based farms also potentially work for eligibility? I don't think that university or colleges will fit in the small and underserved category. As far as eligibility goes. But if you want to send us the intake form, we can set up a time to talk and figure out if there's if there's a way that we can figure out the USDA would approve it. And are we looking for more frass suppliers? Right now, we are working with our sub-awardee, Chippewa Farms, for producing our frass. If there is an opportunity where we need to outsource some of that frass, I don't know that that is covered in our grant. So feel free to reach out to us, but I can't say for sure that we are looking for more frass suppliers at the moment. We are using, so how are we recommending application rate? From the soil tests, we will know what the available nutrients are, and then we'll have a set of recommendations from the lab of what soil amendments would be recommended for as per the crop and the yield desired. And then from that recommendation, we will make small adjustments for the to compensate for the insect frass that is going to become a part of that application to the soil. Give people a few minutes. Anybody just have any questions, comfortability wise, or something that they'd like to share?
Yeah, and if project partners, Pool Farms, IPM, Alina, if you guys want to add on anything, feel free to if we didn't cover anything that you think was imperative for us to highlight.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alina. I am the marketing lead on this project. Just wanted to pop in and say hello and express my excitement for this grant, and would really encourage any farms that are interested in this to join us. You have ample support from folks like me who are going to guide you and help you build a really aligned and successful marketing campaign and plan and distribution plan for your crops and for your commodities. Our ag econ team has an incredible track record, incredible experience, and I've worked in the agriculture technology industry for over a decade. And so I'm very, very excited to be collaborating with all of our farming partners. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put it into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Alina. Appreciate that. Any additional questions? Again, open to project partners if you'd like to add anything on, but for the participants, anything that you'd like to clarify, we're all here to answer your questions. Triple Farms, do you think it might be worth just running through perhaps what you've seen with the frass that you've been developing? Why insect frass? I know we ran through it briefly, but anything that may be useful specific to even the crops that we're focusing on, anything along those lines would be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys hit the key points, and getting eyes on the farm and seeing their needs is crucial to that. But currently we're working on different delivery methods right now based on farm needs and what application, whether it's a fall or spring application. We're producing the frass in bulk here in our research facility in McMinnville, Oregon. And right now we can do a wet or a dry product, depending on what equipment you have on your farm for applying. And so we just work closely with the farms to determine what your actual needs are. And then we'd have a recommended solution for you.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate that. And IPM, would you perhaps be able to run through just some high-level data input that you'd be looking to collect?
Yeah, Rihanna, I can hop in for IPM. We are using the platform Comet Farm from the USDA to input these specifics about your farm. And some of the specific components of inputs of Comet Farm are irrigation records, tillage records, nutrient application records, any sort of practice that has been working with that land to really get the history of that. For the USDA recommends about 10 years time if possible, helps us to get a really great picture of where that soil is at and how it may be impacted in the future by this application of frass. So if anyone has any specific questions about what we'll be looking for, I'm definitely a person that you can reach out to. Otherwise, Rachel and Brenna are also on the IPM team, and we're all very excited for additional farms to be brought onto this project and to work with.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Michael.
You talking to me, Rihanna?
Yeah, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I didn't
Well,
hear you.
I don't want to assume folks, this may be their first splash at even hearing the word frass or understanding what black soldier fly frass is. So just, it's just generally speaking, it's a functional biofertilizer, whether you're focused on sustainability or, replacing conventional inputs, or you're already using composting and other soil amendment or natural approaches. And then when we talk about, someone asked a question about application rates, and there's some reference to beneficial microbes. I think there's a lot of cynicism around synthetically produced biologicals, but frass is a natural, microbially rich, soil health promoting material. We don't get too specific about that until we know your crops, your goals, your operation, and this data that we're talking about. But just that sort of base case that it works as a biofertilizer in numerous different contexts, and there's a whole range of benefits from soil health perspective, limiting pathogens, things that we're researching that may or may not be relevant to your operations. Just to kind of summarize frass in a nutshell, so to speak, if it's all new in this presentation.
Yeah, I really appreciate that breakdown, Michael. Absolutely. I think sometimes we forget that some of these terms are just, we throw them around and we forget that it's not always the most normal terms. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, obviously, Distributable Farms team, they are swimming in knowledge they'd be able to answer this as well. Alina, if I can open it to you as well, just going back to you quickly about the approach that you'd be taking for the farms when it comes to marketing and distribution, just a high level approach would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things to start. Any farm that joins this project and joins this initiative automatically is going to be given the rights to use the terminology climate smart commodity pledge. So everybody who participates in this, we want to make sure that you're acknowledged for the efforts that you're making. So we'll provide you with language, we'll provide you with marketing materials and support to be able to already begin to communicate that to your communities, to your customers, to your partners throughout the process. So you don't have to wait until the products, are ready to go. You can already start talking about this great work that you're participating in. So we'll provide you with ample resources and support to do that. And then in addition, we'll be working very, very closely to understand who your customers are, who you're selling to, what your distribution channels are. And we're going to be developing a custom plan for all of our farming partners. So, there are partners big and small that are going to be working with us, and every farm has a unique story to tell. And so we'll make sure to tailor that to every single partner that we have. Is that a good description, or should I go into some more detail?
No, that was great. I appreciate it. I don't have anything else that I think needs to be added on, but if anyone else does, by all means. But I think that was a great summary. Thank you, Alina. Okay. Any other questions from anyone, any farms that have questions, organizations? We'll take maybe one or two more, and then we can wrap it up if there's nothing else. We will be sharing these slides afterwards, so you are more than welcome to get in touch with us if you have additional questions.
Okay. Give it a second, but I definitely want to make sure we take time to just thank you, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to find out more information about our project and for taking interest in getting this far. And hopefully we continue to work together. We look forward to working with more of you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay. If there's nothing else, again, we're all here to answer any questions you have. Feel free to fill up the form if you're interested, and please do share it if you have any other parties that may be interested. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Frank, for co-hosting this with me. Subawardi's project partners, really appreciate you guys jumping on as well. And to everyone that's joined the call, interested, and expressed interest, again, I reiterate what Frank said. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Hope everyone has a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.